All right. So we're now looking at still talking about fiscal federalism, still talking about the relationship between the national government and the states. Okay, so federalism, and we're looking at 1.43, something called mandates. Mandates. All right, mandates. All right, backside. One, this is a federal order on the state. So a mandate is you telling the states or the federal government telling the states they must do something. And usually what happens is this is they tie it to some sort of grant. So the federal government ties funding for one thing based on a state compliance with another thing. So state, you do this or you don't get the money. Or state, if you want the money, you must do this. Mandates and grants go hand in hand here. All right, so basically it's like an incentive to do what the federal government wants. So it's a way for the federal government to get policy that it wants at the state level, even though in the Constitution the federal government doesn't really have the right to have policy in that situation. That's how it gets around those pesky little enumerated powers. An example of this I mentioned in the last lesson: highway funding, highway funding grants are tied to 21-year-old drinking age. By the way, the federal government has also done this with the recent rise in the smoking age to 21. They also did that through grants, mandating that through grants. Like if you want funding for certain things, I think it was mental health spending. I have to go back and look, but I think that's what it was. Then the state would raise the smoking age or tobacco buying age to 21. All right, that's a mandate. Yeah, there we go. I already have it on here. Duh. So that's a recent one too, where smoking age is 18 or lose mental health money. And after health, just put the dollar sign. That's what's behind my face right here. At least on the screen. All right, cool. So smoking 18 or lose mental health. So those are a couple of examples of like what a mandate is. All right, unfunded mandates. 1.44. Card 1.44. Unfunded mandates. And you're not going to be shocked to hear this because it says unfunded, but like this is when the federal government mandates the state to do something, but then doesn't give it the money. At least the state is getting some money on a lot of mandates. In this case, they're like told, by the way, go do this, but we're not giving you any money to do it. So it costs either the local government or the federal government or the state government, I should say, a lot of money. Could even cost unfunded mandates can also cost businesses money. All right, so this is a federal order on states, but no money is given to comply with the order. Federal order on states, but no money is given to comply with that order. Pause if you need to. All right. An example of this is our environmental laws, like the Clean Air Act. So the Clean Air Act is an example of a unfunded mandate, and basically the government. This is mostly business mandates, where they have to have certain clean technology, filtering smokestacks or cars, any sort of thing like that. And they have to do that, and this government's not giving them money to do it. They have to pay for that, or they pass that cost on. Typically with businesses, almost all costs that businesses have are taxes or regulations. They just pass that on to the customer ultimately. So, like for example, cars need to be safer through mandates from the federal government, and cars will be made safer by the Ford and GM and Toyota, but they'll pass that cost, and now the car costs more. Now that may be a perfectly good trade-off. You may say, I want the safety features, even though I'll pay more for the vehicle. I want the cleaner air, even though I'll pay more for, I'll maybe pay more for some product, but that's a good thing. So, and by the way, look at the clean air. It's amazing the amount of progress we've made in the environment. Look at lead. That's the red thing on the line. Lead in the air. And look at how much it's down 92% lead particles out of the air. I mean, that's absolutely terrific because lead can cause a lot of problems. So this is really good. All right. Another example of this is the American for Disabilities Act, the ADA. And this is kind of like the one that's a little bit more infamous because it cost local governments masses of money because in schools and colleges and whatnot, you have to make all buildings accessible to people with disabilities. Now, I'm not saying that's not something we don't want, but by unfunding it, localities spent millions of dollars to retrofit very, very old buildings that were built some cases 100 years or more before the ADA was passed. So that's an example of an unfunded mandate. They got to put in these ramps. They got to put in uh, different sort of aspects here in order to help people be able to access buildings. All right, cool. All right, that is an unfunded mandate. All right, last one of this unit, 1.45, the last card anyway, is federal revenue sharing. This is another type of federal system or a fiscal grant type program. And it is now defunct. It actually went out, as I will have in the card, in 1986 for a very cute reason. So cute. We'll see. 1.45 backside. All right, so this is a federal program that lasted from 1972 to 1986, and again, this was pushed by the Nixon administration. It was a way for Republicans to kind of give money to the states without the federal government mandating what they had to do with it. And so this is for states to get a share or a portion of the federal income tax revenue. The federal income tax is the number one funder of the federal government in terms of money that comes in. The income tax is a huge part of that. And this allows the states to get a share of it. It gave a certain percentage every year. And here was the thing about it, almost no restrictions to the use. We talked about block grants. They typically had some sort of like a block of money for a certain use, like law enforcement grant or education or something like that. But the federal revenue sharing had almost no restrictions at all on use. So a state wanted to do something new in education or law enforcement or highways or whatever they wanted to do, they could do that. This was ended in 1986 due to mounting federal debt. Now, I said earlier, like this is a cute reason. The mounting federal debt at that point, and it was about $2 trillion the debt had climbed to, the amount the nation owed to other countries, and anyway, this is cute because now, like 35 years later, we owe $23 trillion. Actually, that's not even right. Actually, this is the updated one. We owe, if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, $26.5 trillion to other countries. As a matter of fact, the debt is now we owe more money as a nation, 130% more than our economy actually produces. And this has big ramifications because countries that get into too massive of a debt eventually have to do one of two things: either default on the debt, and that's really bad because no one's going to loan you money after you default, and then you're going to have to cut spending, or you raise taxes, a lot, and that can be problematic because it could affect the economy, or you just print money, and that causes inflation, which is basically just taxing the people to pay because suddenly prices will go up. So massive debt is a problem. Pretty much nobody in America cares about it. The economy, Republicans don't really care. The Democrats definitely don't care. Obama didn't care. Bush didn't care. Trump doesn't care. No one cares about the national debt right now. I have a suspicion that eventually we will care, but right now no one cares. But the point in this case is that in 1986 we ended a revenue sharing process because we were so scared about the national debt at that time, and it was so much smaller than now. So that's all fun. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. It's the last part of the lesson. Make sure you do your practice and learn it.